For this video, we're going to add a video we're going to swap out a photograph and add a video again. But this time we're going to take a longer video and only use like 3 little portions of it because we don't want the whole video to play. It's too long for one, and I don't need all the content in it. So that video, I've already downloaded it, and that is the baking with apples. So like I say, it's a pretty long clip, and about a minute. Our video is only 30 seconds, and it shows someone making empanadas out of apples, and I only need certain portions of this. So what I'm going to do is the same process. I did want to show you before I open up the video we're editing that this is the video after it's been completed, and you can see right down here in the layers panel in the timeline, this is the apple dessert on table that I was using initially, and that used this photograph right here. So it was just a static picture, and while it looked okay, I think that we can do a little better by putting the videos in here. They're a little more dynamic and a little more interactive, and I think people can relate to videos a little bit better than photographs. Nothing wrong with photographs, but I think the videos are a little bit nicer. So this is what we're going to be replacing. So I'm just trying to show you right here the mechanics of how I set this up. So we'll hide the apple photo, and then if you just look right down here, you can see that where these other the video of Apple Tree Video and Apples on a Branch, where they fade out, right here in this section, we have a clip, a smaller clip of Baking with Apples, plays here. It fades in, plays, fades out. And then the next clip that I chose fades in, plays, fades out. And then the next clip, or the final clip in the making of the apple empanadas, fades in here, plays, and fades out. And then it goes into the final clip of the family around the table. So just note here how the video, this is the entire video here. I chose just to copy it 3 times and have 3 of those same videos on 3 separate layers, and then just clip what plays on each of those and position them where I need them to play in the timeline. They overlap by about a second or maybe a half a second, so as one transitions out, the other transitions or fades in. So let's open up our file, and we were working with our file that had all photographs in it. So I'm going to find my spot here where the apple dessert right here. So let's open this up, and we'll look at where this is positioned in here, because I want to replace this where the apple dessert, and this is where it shows up here in the timeline. This is kind of the visibility bar here, and this shows where that apple dessert is. So I want to take those 3 video clips and put them in this space right here. So I'm going to snap it right to the front first using my Shift key, and then I'm going to, let's see, we'll pull that video in, Baking with Apples, drag it into my project window, and then bring it down into my into my layers panel here within my timeline. So I'm going to put it right below the apple dessert on a table. So it's Baking with Apples. And remember when we looked at this, this was over a minute, 50 some seconds. So I'm going to want to just click on this and slide it around, and I may have to play through it to find where I want it to, or where that video clip is going to be. So let's turn the apple dessert on a layer. Let's turn that invisible. And we still want to keep these positions here, so I'm going to leave the transform layers open. All right, so I'm going to just hide all of these layers above, so all I really see is the video. Oops, I still have this video up here too. So now I can just kind of scrub through and see that video. So what I really want is I want where they start to stir these apples. It's way over here. It is right. Oh no, that's in there. They're stirring them in a pan here. Here we go, right here. So I know I need part of this over here. So I'm just going to pull this all the way over here. And let's see, if I started right here, that actually might be okay, because I want them just to stir the apples a little bit. Remember that within this time frame that I made that apple dessert on a table visible, I want to fill 3 videos. So I could extend it if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it and see if I can fit them in there. So we'll kind of divide it up in thirds. So here they're stirring the apples. So why don't we just stop about right there. So this is baking with apples right here. Now before I clip this video to fit it in here, I'm going to duplicate it twice because there are 3 separate little clips in that video that I want. So with that layer selected down here, I'm going to duplicate it once and then duplicate it twice. So we'll use these other 2 later on. I'm going to make these not visible right now. I'm going to hide this last one too. So before we clip this, I also wanted to point out that this video that I found it on Pexels.com, and it doesn't have any sound. If you did, there'd be a little sound like speaker here that looks like this in our sound file, and you would also have audio controls in here. We only have transform controls right here. Okay, so we kind of know where we want this. So with this layer selected, I'm going to put my timeline indicator right in the very beginning of where I had that apple dessert photo. And then with this selected, to clip this right here, I'm going to hold down my Option and use my left bracket, or type my left bracket. And that will kind of snap it to right there. And then if I want this to play through to about, maybe I'm thinking about a third of this, about right there is fine. I'm going to make sure this layer is selected again, and then Option right bracket, and that will clip it. So all it's going to play is this little tiny bit of them stirring the apples in here. Now the only thing I really need to do now is fade that in and fade that out. So we already know how to do this. I do have these controls right here to fade in. You can see they're 100% here, and then this will fade to 0. I'm looking at this right now and I'm not sure why that's not 0, but it should be. I'm sorry, the first one should be 0 because it's fading in, my mistake. So this is set to, I must not have pushed it all the way down, or I just moved it now. Should be at 0, and then it goes to this one, which is 100, and 100, and then this one, which stays at 100, and then this one, which should be 0 right here. So I can copy these by dragging all across all 4 of them, Command-C to copy, clicking on this layer. Sometimes I'll click right on opacity and Command-V, and it'll place these right where you have the timeline indicator. I don't really care because I have to change these anyway. I'm going to move these back, and I want them to be right in the beginning. Now this one is the second one. I don't really, it looks like I have an extra one there. I'll just delete that one. I'm going to move this over because I want it to fade in a little bit faster and then play and fade out a little bit faster. So I'm going to move these over here. Using my Shift key, snap to the end of where that video plays, and then snap this one right here. So I might pull that in just a little bit here and right there. Now thinking about this, I'm dividing this up into 3s. I do want these to overlap just a little bit. So I guess I could pull this over just a little bit farther, grab both of these and move them over, and then take this and I could move this over just by clicking on it and hold my shift key down. It would snap to this new location. So on the timeline, this would play just a little bit longer. So see, now it's going to come in, it'll fade in, play through here for a second or two, and then it will fade out. And it will overlap with whatever the next clip that I make is. So let's hide this apple photograph here, the dessert. We can still use this to measure where we want everything to line up. I'm going to open up my second instance of that apple baking with apple video, and I want to find another part. I know it's toward the end, so I'm going to pull it over this way. I'm going to hide the first video. So now when I play through here, I liked where they were dropping the apples on right here, where they were kind of dropping the apples on the empanadas or on the shell there. So I think I will start maybe like about, I guess right up here is probably good. So I know that I want to clip it to here. So with this selected, I'm going to use Command left bracket, and that will clip it right to here. Now I'm going to bring this back because I know I want this video of them dropping the apples on the empanada to start fading in where the bowl mixing video, or the mixing them in the pan, I guess, starts to fade out. So I'm just going to move this back here, and I'm going to hold, I can just line it up there. You can use your shift key if you want as well. So now what I want to do is find the end of this. So it'll fade that out. Oops, I turned the other layer off. Sorry about that. I want this one here. Oh, you know, I clipped the wrong one. I'm scrubbing through here saying, why didn't I clip this one? So that's no big deal. All I'm going to do is just swap these two layers. I was looking at the wrong layer, which I actually do sometimes in here. Okay, so now this is the make that visible. This is them. This is way, way at the end, so now I need to open this up a little bit. I want to find where they were dropping it right into the empanadas. Back a little bit more. Okay, right there. Actually, I think if I'm starting right there, maybe back just a little bit more. There, maybe back even further, I think. I want to get it where it's kind of coming out of the bowl there. Maybe about like right there. So I'll use this line here. I'm going to bring this over where the previous video, the first one, starts to fade out. Bring this over here, right to that line. Hold my shift key down, it will snap to it. And this will start to fade in where that fades out. So now I have this one. If I turn this layer visible, they're stirring the apples. They come out of there. And see how it just transitions right into them dropping it down. I move this across, they put the apples on there, and I think there's a little jump in their video, so I want to stop that one. So I'm going to go about right here. And then I'll put my timeline indicator here. With this selected, I will do command or type Command right bracket. Oops, sorry, Option right bracket, my fault. And that will set that video and clip it right there. Now all I need to do is I can put this timeline indicator right in the beginning here. I should be able to borrow these keyframes, copy, click on here, paste. They show up right here. Looks like I need to back them up a little bit because this clip is a little bit shorter. Hold my space bar down, click it right, or snap it right there. Okay. So those two should play. This should fade in, and now I have them stirring, fade out, fade into the other empanada dropping, or the apples dropping, and then this will fade out. And then the last thing is, let's open up the last video that I have. I'm sorry, it's the same video, but the last clip, and I want to use way at the end here where they're pulling them out of the oven. So really what I can do is I can go way to the end here where I know that photograph was, and this is the end of the photograph, and I'll just line the video up to the very end of it here, and I know that all of this is fine. They're pulling it out of the oven, they're looking at them, and then they fade into another piece here. So all I need to do is come over to where they're dropping the apples on the empanada, where that starts to fade out. I want the last photo of them pulling it out of the oven to fade in. So first I'm going to clip that with this layer selected and my timeline indicator right where it starts to fade out, and Option left bracket. That'll clip it. So the brighter green is all that is going to play. I will take these two transitions, these 4 keyframes, copy those, and then come right down to this layer and select it, Command V. It drops them right in there. I'll double check to make sure that they fall right at the end. They don't, so I'm going to just take these 2, hold my Shift key down, and snap them right to it. So let's see how we did here. I turn everything back on. Let's close these layers. I'm going to leave the apple dessert on table photograph turned invisible because I've replaced it with these 3 clips of the video. So if we go back to the beginning, open this up a little bit. I'm going to zoom it forward just a little bit because we don't need to see all of that. But right here. Sorry, it bogged down a little bit. And then it transitions out. Oops, sorry, I had the final photo. The final photo, I had that. There we go, you can see that. I had the final photo turned off, so this is how it will look at the end. So it fades out of that, fades into this, and then fades into that. So, as you can see, the last thing that you want to do is when I look at these layers, I'm going to go back to this layer, you can see the video is really small. So all I have to do with this layer selected is to just click on it and, using my Shift key, enlarge it a little bit just so it fills the background. You might want to move it this way or that way. I kind of like how it's stirring in there. And look at what's being covered by the red band at the top. Let's go to the next one. Click on that layer. Bump this one up a little bit with my Shift key. Pull the corners out. You move this. I think right there might actually be okay. That looks fine. So we're stirring the apples, dropping it on there. And then the last one, click on this last layer and drag it out. And that should be good, where we transition from there and into the final, and then it transitions into the final piece. So that's it. That's how we add one video, duplicate it into 3 different layers, and clip it into smaller videos or smaller video clips that we want to play, kind of overlapping each other and fading in and out of each other. Thank you.